Okay, we are at the end of our week studying Jonathan and David and what we can learn from their lives. And I'm a little bit sad to say that because I love the story of Jonathan and David. But today we're going to look at preferring others and trusting God. And we really see that in the life of Jonathan and David. And you know what? I feel especially attached to this story because I've been so blessed to have a Jonathan David kind of friend in my life. And I know how difficult this must have been for Jonathan and David, this very last time that they were together. So we know the last thing that happened was Saul was throwing a spear at Jonathan. And so it's obvious that there's no hope of reconciliation. And now Jonathan and David had made this little secret communication that they were going to help each other to know, is it safe for you to come back or it's not safe? So Jonathan had said, I'm going to check it out, and if it's not safe, I'm going to come back out to this field where you're hiding, and I'm going to shoot these arrows, and I'm going to tell my boy to keep running even farther. And if you hear that, then you need to run for your life. So when Jonathan came back, and of course he knew it wasn't safe for David, and imagine what was going through Jonathan's mind, because in the setup that they had, there was no chance of, again, communicating. It was just, I'm going to shoot the arrows and you come back, or I shoot the arrows and you run away. And so he shot the arrows, and it was the signal to run away. But because David also loved Jonathan so much, even more than thinking first of his own safety, he was preferring his friend, and he came back for one more goodbye. And it says that David embraced Jonathan and he kissed him, and they wept and they wept and they wept. And I can only imagine how terrible that grief was, because they knew they would never see each other again. And it was such a hard thing to be ripped apart from your best friend. And it says that David wept even harder. And Jonathan, he could have been so selfish. He could have said, no, just stay. Hide in the mountains. I'll come and visit you. But he knew the call of God on David's life was so great. He needed to release him into that call. And so he did. And we see Jonathan, and he speaks forth a declaration over David. And he says, go in peace. He said, because we've sworn an oath in the Lord's name. And we've said, let the Lord be between you and me while we're separate one from another, and for our children and our children's children. And those are the last words that Jonathan said to David. And then David left. And so just imagine the great emotion that was there. And this was something that was a covenant. We said, remember, the covenant is never ending. It's from generation to generation to generation. It did not end with David and Jonathan. Jonathan's children and David's children and their children's children, they went on forever. And you know what? Sometimes there's a relationship, or there's a friendship, or there's something important. It could be a family member or a friend or someone that's very dear to you. And you may have to fight for it, like Jonathan and David fought for their friendship. And sometimes it's just a test, like Isaac. Are you willing to lay it down? And God will give it back to you. And other times, you know what? You have to let it go and trust God. And that's what we see Jonathan and David doing. They both trusted God. They knew that God had brought them together, and he totally did. Because you know what? David would have never survived as long as he did without Jonathan. It's true. Jonathan saved David. Jonathan protected David. Jonathan helped David get to the next level. And so selflessly. So selflessly. So many things were there by Saul, and Jonathan couldn't control that. And you know what? There may be situations that you can't control, but what you can control is your own heart position and your own actions. So, going the second mile, I want to challenge you. Be a Jonathan type friend. Be the kind of friend that stands by someone else, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it costs you, no matter how convenient or inconvenient, and encourage. Be a bridge builder. Be a bridge builder. Be a covenant maker. Don't be afraid to give what you have to someone else. Help them reach their dreams. Be that kind of friend. Be faithful. That's the kind of friend Jonathan was to David, and that's the kind of friend David was to Jonathan. And you know what? I believe that just like Jesus said, they will know that you are my believers by your love, that kind of selfless Jonathan, David kind of love, that's what the world needs. So this week, be that kind of friend. Be that kind of light. And I know you can make a difference.